Everybody, welcome back to our channel. As you can see, I'm solo bolo today. No special guest, nobody sitting beside me. I'm just doing this by myself. Reason why Portia's not here is that our schedule just has not been meshing very well, so that's why we haven't posted a video. I wanted to post it every Monday, but you see that didn't happen. So we both decided that was okay if I just do this video by myself. So today's story is going to be a two-parter. It's a lot about his childhood, his teenage years, his adulthood, and then there's a lot on the murders. Like, they go on very deep about the murders, about the women who were murdered, and there's just a lot to fit into one video. So me and Portia decided that we were going to do a two-parter because we wanted to fit all the information in. We didn't want to shortcut anything. We didn't want to leave anything out or half-ass it, because this is a lot in the story. So today we're going to be talking about I'm going to be talking about Charles Albright. So I have a lot of notes down here. I memorized most of it, but I might look down or flip just to get everything that I want to speak about in today's story. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Charles Albright, aka the eyeball killer. Something about this story intrigued me because there was such little evidence, very circumstantial evidence to convict him, and he got convicted life in prison, but it was very little. I mean, it kind of I'm still on the fence on, did he even do it? Did they just, because he's so easy? I don't know. We'll get into the story. You guys will make your decision on it, because I'm still on the fence about it, if he even did it. So let's get into the dark side of humans. Charles Albright was born August 10th, 1933. Only 3 weeks after he was born, he was adopted by Dell and Fred Albright. Fred was a grocer, and Dell was a teacher. She used to be a teacher, because when she started raising Charles, she was a stay-at-home mom. Later on, Charles' friends would describe him as a bright kid, eager to please. One of his friends described him as the Pied Piper of the kids. Basically, all the kids just wanted to follow him around just to see what he would do next. He was just such a fun kid to be around. He was always doing something, so they just wanted to see, what is Charlie going to do next? That's how, they described him. Dell was very protective over Charles. Her and Fred couldn't have kids of their own, so that's why they decided to adopt. I thought someone was knocking on my door. Opened the door, and there was nobody. So anyway, so they couldn't have kids of their own, so that's why they decided to adopt. So, don't mind the smoke. This is my humidifier for my plant. So if you see smoke coming, nothing's on fire. Anyway, so she was very protective, even to the point where she kept goats in the backyard, because she believed that goat milk was more healthier than cow's milk. So she wanted Charles to have the best of everything. She wanted him to have fresh goat's milk. She was just very attentive to him, but she also had a weird side to her. She was very strict too, but sometimes, from time to time, she would dress Charles in girls' clothes and give him dolls to play with. I mean, I don't know what the reason behind her. Did she want her daughter? Did she want the best of both worlds? So she started one day, let's just dress him as a girl. I don't know. She was, even when Charles was only 1 year old, one time he stole her measuring tape, and she locked him down in a dark room. If he wouldn't want to take a nap, she would tie him to his bed. And she was very obsessed with him being clean. Don't touch things, don't get dirty, because she was scared that he was going to get polio. At that time, polio was a big, thing. So she would change his clothes 3 to 4 times a day. If he had a speck of anything, any dirt, anything on him, she would change his clothes. She even went as far as to take him to the polio ward of the hospital to see these patients in these iron lungs. It was just big machines that they would stick these polio patients in. And she would show him this at a very young age, and she would tell him, if you cannot stay clean, to this little boy, he's probably 1, 2 at this time, if you cannot stay clean, you're going to be stuck in these iron lungs for the rest of your life. Like, come on, like, I don't know. But, let's see. She also had, anyways, so since she was a teacher, she was really into education. She was on him about his school, on him about his education. She wanted him to succeed. She wanted him to be, great. And she also taught him to be very respectful. She taught him about respecting women in particular. She would teach them that she would also teach him, if you have nothing to say, don't say nothing at all. Basically, she said, if you don't have nothing polite to say or anything good to say about this person, you don't say anything at all. You don't disrespect people, no matter how you feel about them. You just keep your mouth shut. She even, went to the point when he got older, she would she would chaperone his dates. She would even call the girl's parents and like, I'm Charles' mom. I want to let you know that my son will never disrespect your daughter. I raised a good son and la la la. And the parents were kind of like, okay, we appreciate it, but this is like kind of weird. Like, it's just kind of weird. But she was really onto his education. That in elementary school, he was bumped up 2 grades. Like, he was moved up 2 grades because she was so onto his education. Like, she would even 30 minutes before the school bus would come, she would have him practice piano. 30 minutes before you go to school, he would practice piano. I mean, she was on him about his education. She was really strict. And she also got him introduced him into this hobby, taxidermy. I mean, he was 11 years old, and she enrolled him into this mail order course in Northwestern. I have to make sure I got the school name right. In taxidermy. And Charles would work on dead birds he would find, little creatures he would find, and Dell would be like right there by his side. Like, Dell showed him, she even did his first bird, she cut it to show him how to do it and how he wouldn't go too deep. She also showed him how to use the scalpel to cut the skull, to remove the brain, the forceps to remove the eyes. I mean, she was right on, hands-on with him. I mean, is that a weird hobby to introduce to your son? I don't know. People do it, so you can't really judge what is weird and what is not, because they have schools, they have shops about taxidermy. I mean, people do taxidermy all the time, so can we say that that is just a weird hobby to introduce to your kid? I don't think you can, because back there in 1933, I mean, I don't know. That's something I'm not into, but we can't really judge for her to introduce him to taxidermy. But anyways, his favorite part was the eyes. Like, he loved replacing the eyes with these, little marble glass bird eyes. He would even go to the taxidermy shop and just stare at the boxes of eyes, of fake eyes. He would just stare at them. But Dell will never buy. They'll be like, no, those cost too much. We don't have enough money for those. They're unnecessary. I'm not buying those eyes. So she would have him use the buttons in her sewing kit. And Charles he didn't like it. He was like, it don't look real. I wanted it to look realistic. They have buttons. He just did not like it. But he had no choice. Bill was not buying those eyes, and he didn't have the money to buy the eyes, so he couldn't get them. So in high school, he graduated at the age of 15 years old. So he graduated from Addison High School. So when Charles left home, he went to North Texas College. I'm like, I want to get these schools' names right. Everything else I remember, the school names. For the life of me, I don't remember. So anyways, but by the time of the end of his freshman year, Charles was in this burglary ring with these other students. I feel like somebody's knocking on the door. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe it's just the noise of the neighbor. Because I don't like getting up, opening the door, and it's nobody. So I'm going to sit still until I hear it again. It's nothing. So anyways, He was in the burglary ring. They hit up, I think, let me make sure, at least 3 stores. So they got like $700 worth of money and merchandise. And back then in the 1933s, I'm pretty sure $700 was a lot. So Dale, she just couldn't believe it. Oh my God, I don't want my son is in this burglary ring. He's just, I have to make this right. So she goes to the stores and she's like, I will reimburse you guys anything that he stole, anything that they took. I will give you the money back. I will reimburse you. Please don't press charges. But the store was like, no, I want to press charges. They need to be punished for what they do, but they did, and I'm pressing charges. She even went to the judge and said, can I be his lawyer? Can I, defend him? And she even went as far as like, I will do his time. Like, I will go to jail for him. Just let him be free. Just let him stay in school. Just let him get his education. They're like, no. He has to do his own time. He has to be punished for what he did because he did this crime, not you. So by you taking his time, you're not really teaching him anything, like at all. Like, you're not teaching him anything. He's not gonna learn his lesson. So anyways, after all that she did trying to get him off, he ended up spending a year in prison anyways. So Charlie ended up spending his 18th birthday in prison. Dell worked her hardest to keep it hush. She worked her hardest to keep it hush to where he was at. That, so half of the neighbors in his neighborhood did not know where he was at, did not know he was a convicted felon, did not know none of this. So after he got out of jail, prison, whatever, I don't know if it was prison or jail or I don't know, but he went to Arkansas State Teacher College. As soon as Charlie got to Arkansas Teacher College, he was just a popular student. Like, from what I read, he was just a popular, he was just, everybody wanted to be around him. He was the president of the French club. He was even on the football team. He was in the choir. He was on the yearbook. So he was just went in there head first. He's going to do right this time. This is his second chance. He even meets a girl, Betty Hessler. I'm just checking these names because I don't want to get these names wrong. I don't have Portia here to correct me on if I say these names wrong, if I say these schools wrong. That's why I'm looking down at my notes, because I don't have a partner here to correct me. So anyways, he even like didn't do, he was the same Charlie. He was a prankster. He wasn't doing his work, but he was still end up getting an A in his anatomy course. He wasn't doing his work. He was just being a prankster. Like, they described a lot of things that he did, but one thing that stood out to me, one of the pranks he did was, okay, so his friend, it didn't say his name, so his friend had, this girlfriend, and they got into a big argument, and the friend and the girlfriend broke up. And he was so upset about the breakup that all the pictures that he had of his girlfriend, he ripped up, threw in the trash. Like, I'm over her, don't want no memory of her, throwing all her pictures away. I don't want her. I just don't want to even see her, think of her, nothing. I'm done. So a couple of weeks later, or a month, but some time went by, and he got a new girlfriend. And he got pictures of his new girlfriend. He want to look at his new girlfriend and everything like that. So one day he's laying in the bed and he's looking at pictures of his new girlfriend, and he looks at it and he's like, something seems very odd and off about these photos. So he looks and pays attention and realizes that his ex-girlfriend's eyes are glued on to his new girlfriend's eyes. So Charlie done got the pictures out of the trash can, then cut the eyes out of the ex-girlfriend's picture, cut her eyes out of the picture, glued them onto the new girlfriend's picture, even went as far as in the boys' bathroom, glued the eyes of his ex-girlfriend on the roof of the boys' bathroom, on the hall. So everywhere this boy went, he's seen the eyes of his ex-girlfriend following him. If that ain't creepy, I don't know what it is. Everybody's like, oh, that's just Charlie. That's just Charlie being Charlie. But to me, that was kind of weird. Like, who would even think about cutting eyes out of the picture and glue them on something? It's just, that's kind of weird. It's kind of odd. But yeah, that's the things he did. And everybody just brushed it off. That's just Charlie being Charlie. Charlie eventually got kicked out of Arkansas. teaching college, he got caught stealing school property. He was at the bus stop and they caught him. He even had like golf clubs from the teacher. I mean, he had the school supplies. He just had sticky fingers. The boy liked the steal. So he ended up getting kicked out of Arkansas. So he ends up marrying his girlfriend Betty Hester. Yeah, Hester, and they end up having a daughter. Okay, so they end up getting married, yeah, and they Charlie would have little odd jobs here and there, you know. Basically, they were living off of Betty. She ended up becoming an English teacher because she was an English major in college. So she ended up becoming an English teacher. So basically, they were living off her, you know, her income. Because he would get little odd jobs in here, but he just wouldn't keep them. He can never find really a good job because he has no degrees. He got kicked out of his first college. He got kicked out of his second college. So he never earned a degree. So instead of Charlie just going back to school, I mean, your wife is working. You guys are already living off her income. I mean, this is the perfect time just to go back to school and get your degrees. But instead of that, he decides just to make his own degree. So he sneaks into the Texas Texas State University. He grabs all the forms that he needs to grab. He fills them out. He forges his name on it. He even went as far as stealing the typewriter that they use, so it'd be the same font, the same writing. He did put all his information in, and he went back and stuck the papers into the files, saying that he was a graduating student. So that's what he did. So when he was 36 years old, he became a high school teacher in Cardale University with his fake degrees. He had fake degrees he had a master in biology. This is his fake degree. A master in biology. He was even saying he was working on another master for counseling, and he was even going to get into the PhD program for biology, which is all fake. This is all fraud, fake, whatever. But all Charlie's students loved him. He can name the scientific name of plants. He can tell you the name of any bug. I mean, he was just very smart. Charles, to me, he was very smart. He knew Latin. And plus he drove, you know, this nice car. He wore his little alligator boots. I mean, the girls loved him. They just thought he was just so cool and good looking. And the boys loved him. They wanted to be like him. I mean, everything was smooth sailing for Charlie. Smooth sailing until one of the administrator, you know what I mean, the head up, was noticing that Charles' name of, you know, Texas State, the one that he said he had degrees in, kept coming up as a graduating student, but he ain't never met Charles. He ain't never met Charlie. And I'm guessing the year that he said he graduated, he should have met him. He should have seen him at least around campus. He should have met this guy. But he didn't. So he went to the principal of Cardale and gave them this information. Like, I don't think these, you know, degrees are right. I've never seen Charlie. I don't ever think he was a student at this school. I mean, something is just not adding up. So the principal, I mean, he decides to go and confronts Charlie. What does he do? He just smiles and admits to everything. He just says that he haven't had time to get his degree, so, you know, he just decided to embellish one. You know, like, you know, what's wrong with that? Like, there was nothing wrong. Like, that's just how he reacted to it. So, of course, he got fired. And the school, the Eastern Texas school, decided not to press charges. Because basically they were kind of embarrassed. Like, this guy got over on us. But he did get probation. I mean, they did, you know, they kept it out of the papers. They did press charges. They figured, you know, it's nonviolent crime. They did press charges, but they didn't, you know, report it. They didn't put it in the papers. It was out of the papers. So once again, Charlie gets away. Not gets away, but nobody really knows what he's doing. They still think they don't know about his conviction when he was in college. They don't know about this. I mean, it's just, nobody knows. Everybody thinks, oh, Charlie is still good old Charlie. So, after that happened, we went back to just relying on his wife. his check, you know, and he kept getting odd jobs here and there, but he just could not stay out of trouble. Like, he just couldn't stay out of trouble. He was forging cashier checks. He was stealing perfume. So he even went and broke into this hardware store and stole some tools. That he ended up getting convicted. You know, the guy pressed charges and he served 6 months. And Dale was telling everybody, oh, he's just on an oil ship, you know, out in the ocean. He got a job out there, you know. So once again, nobody knows Charlie's in jail. They think he's out working. You know, he's out working, whatever. Nobody knows that he's serving time for theft. So after he gets out of jail, he gets really into the church. Like, he's a Catholic anyway. So he gets really into church and he meets this family. And he gets really, like, attached to this family. It's the mom and dad. And I want to say they have 2 or 3 daughters. Young daughters. So he even, like, he buys them boxes of steak. Like, he even dresses up as Santa Claus and, you know, brings the girls toys and da-da-da-da. Turns out that the daughter says that Charlie has molested her. That he's touching her and, you know, he molested her. So the girl's parents, of course, they wanted to keep this issue quiet. They didn't want their church to, you know, think of their daughter any differently or anything like that. So they kind of kept it out the papers again. But they did want Charles to get punished. They did want him to get punished for what he did. Charles said that he didn't do it. Like, I didn't touch the girl. I didn't do it. But he decided to plead guilty to keep it. He didn't want to fight it because he didn't want it to get out. He didn't want a big trial. He didn't want people to know that he was accused of this terrible crime. So he just admitted to it. He just said, yeah, I did it. He pled guilty to doing it. She was a young girl. They didn't say specifically how old she was, but she was under the age of 15 because that's what he admitted to, having sexual acts with a child under the age of 15. So she was a young girl. Did he do any time? Well, no, he had probation. So yeah, he had probation for, I don't know. He said he didn't do it, but I don't know. He admitted to it. He pled guilty, but he said he didn't want it to get out there. So once again, nobody knew about this crime. Like, usually his crimes were stealing and just fraud and stuff, but now he's touching little girls. So it's kind of progressing, you know. So he got probation. So once again, he went doing odd jobs. He never, they said he even went to Mexico, was a bullfighter. He just did all kinds of stuff. Like, there's a lot to his story. Like, I couldn't even get it all because this video would be long. But yeah, he just had a lot of odd jobs here and there. But him and his wife, they ended up just falling apart. They didn't love each other no more, so they ended up getting a divorce. And, you know, Charles became a ladies' man. You know, he started dating and meeting women and stuff. And every woman that, you know, they talked to, they said he was very respectful. Like, he never approached us for sex. Like, he would never, like, even engage, try to, you know, initiate it. He wouldn't initiate till we said something that the woman said they wanted to have sex or something like that. That's when he would initiate it. Now, most of the stories that were told was coming from his own mouth. So how true is that? We don't know. But they said most of the stories, he told them himself that he was very respectful, that he never, you know, forced them to have sex or anything like that. He never initiated it. That's what he was told. That's what he told. But even some of the women they talked to, they would describe him that he was never aggressive. He was very polite and, you know, he was just a nice guy. So he ended up meeting this lady named Dixie. She was from Arkansas, so he must have stayed in Arkansas. But yeah, so he met Dixie, and Dixie would even later describe Albright as gentle, like the sex was satisfying. He never talked dirty to her, and he never forced her to do weird things. So, you know, they were just probably missionary style. They never did any wild or unconventional. How she described it? Oh, unconventional. You know, it was not unconventional. It was just regular. But little did Dixie know, or Charlie's friends knew, but he was a regular at the Red District in Dallas. I mean, he knew the prostitutes very well. Like, he was a well-known customer there. Like, that's what Charlie did. So when Dixie was, once again, he's living off of Dixie's income. Like, he does not have a steady job. He's basically living off her income. So while Dixie's at work, working her ass off to support her and Charlie, Charles is over here with the prostitutes. So, so Charles, he met this girl, Susan Peterson. So basically, he was like her sugar daddy. Like, he would like pay, you know, give her money stuff. She even put him as a co-signer on her bond application. So if she fled and didn't pay, he would be responsible to pay the bond. You know, he even knew. Let me see. So he even knew some other prostitutes. He even knew some women before they were prostitutes. Like the lady named Mary Pratt. He knew her even before she started, you know, prostituting. But when she became a prostitute, best believe Charlie was her first customer, and Charlie was her loyal customer. They called him Old Man Albright. So he was old around this time, because he was 36 when he was doing. So he was an older man. I want to say, they really didn't say his age or anything like that, but I'm going to say he was in the 60s, 50s, 60s. He was an older guy. They said he was a good trick. He would pay actually more money than what, you know, the services cost. He would give them extra. Even some prostitutes, he would just pick them up, take them to get something to eat, and he wouldn't even want to have sex with them. He just wanted to talk. He just wanted to be there for them. But in others, he was regular customers. Like, he was there like every Thursday, or, you know, I'm just using Thursday as a, but he was there like regular customer. They had their regular dates or whatever. But they said after a while, you know, some of Charlie's regulars kind of cut him off, because they were like, Charlie is starting to get aggressive. And when I was reading that, he started acting like this after Dale died. So they said that him and Dale's relationship got very strained during the years. He was getting tired of her always being on his back, tired of her always being there. She was just so disappointed about how his life turned out. His life did not turn out the way that she wanted his life to turn out, you know. It just wasn't what she wanted for Charlie. She thought Charlie was going to be so much better, but Charlie just couldn't stay out of trouble. So they barely talked. Their relationship was very strained. So after Dale died, his relationship with his dad, Fred, actually got better. Like, Fred was really never, he wasn't a bad dad. He was just never really involved, because Dale was overwhelmed. You know, she took over everything. She was, you know, the smoke. Let's get him under. She was, you know, head in, you know, Charlie's life. So Fred and Charlie actually got close. After Dale died, people noticed his personality started changing. So maybe it was like, she's not here no more to hoover over me. I can release this dark fantasies or this dark stuff that I've been hiding that I didn't want to release, because my mom's always here. She always tells me that I need to be respectful to women, you know, especially sexually. So he had this underlining, you know, kept it deep down because he didn't want to disappoint his mom. But anyways, they said he was getting very aggressive. Like, he was getting aggressive. He would tell them to spank me like a child. He would even, one time he picked up one girl, I think it was Mary or Susan, but he picked her up with another girl, and he wanted to have a threesome. So they were like, cool. So he handcuffed them, and and then he started hitting them, and he would scream, bitch, you know you like this. Okay, nobody respect Charlie to even act like that. Like, Charlie was never aggressive. He would never call them a bitch. He didn't speak dirty. He didn't talk dirty. It was just like, this is so out of his character. So they're like, we can't fuck with Charlie no more. Like, even though I know he's a good trick and he pays well, he's getting a little weird. So they kind of like stopped dealing with him. So finally his father passed, you know, not finally, but his father passed, and he inherited $96,000. $96,000. I mean, and also his parents owned property. They owned property in South Dallas, you know, and he kept his father's name on the property. He didn't change the name. He kept the father's name just out of respect. He wanted to keep the father's name on there, but he eventually rented out some of the homes to make extra money. But he moved back into Dallas to Oak Cliff. Now, Oak Cliff wasn't what Oak Cliff was in the 1930s. 1930s, it was all white neighborhood. It was, but I think it was in the 90s. This was in the 90s. Oak Cliff was the hood. Like, Oak Cliff had gangs. Oak Cliff had drugs. Oak Cliff had prostitution. It was just, it went downhill. Like, Oak Cliff wasn't what Oak Cliff was. So he moved back in there with, you know, at his old house. Him and Dixie moved back into Oak Cliff. So this is where I'm going to end it. We're going to pick up. Next video is going to be basically about the murders, the finding of the bodies, and Charlie didn't. We'll just get into it. You'll understand now. Remember the names that I have mentioned about this prostitutes that he's known. So we're gonna get into the murders. We're gonna get into whatever evidence they find on Charlie, the little evidence they find on Charlie. We're gonna get into his trial. We're gonna get into his conviction, and then we're gonna start. Do you guys believe he did it? Because it was very circumstantial. And there's another guy involved in this. His name got brought up. So it's just, we're going to talk a lot about this in the next video about, you know, the murders and the case and the trial and all that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's just boring old little me, and it wasn't Portia here that gives you all the laughs. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.
It was a nightmare.